items are called gauge sticks, and they're used to lay out the dress of the millstone. You'll notice the design on the face of this stone. These are called lands, the flat areas. The grooves are called furrows, and these sticks are used to lay out that pattern. Now they have a name. The longer one is called the master. The secondary length one is called the journeyman, and the shorter one is called the apprentice. So these are used to lay out the width and the arrangement of these furrows. Alright, so we've laid out the dress of the millstone on the surface of it with these gauge sticks. And now we're going to use this series of hammers you see here, or some of them, to actually cut those furrows into the stone. And that was done by hand, one groove at a time, one strike of this stone hammer at a time. All right, you'll notice there's such a variety of shapes to these stone picks or mill picks. Everyone had their idea of what worked best for them. So that's the reason for the variation in the shapes. Now some of them have specific purposes, and you'll notice that some of them are big and heavy, could take away a lot of stone. Some of them are more delicate. There's all different shapes. There's also an interesting one here that looks kind of like a meat tenderizer. It's called a bushing hammer, and it was used to rough up the surface of the land. Like sandpaper, the coarser the sandpaper, the more material it removes. The same is true of the face of the stone. The more coarse the face of the stone, the better job it does of shredding and tearing the grain into smaller particles. All right, now this is a different type of hammer. This is called a mill bill. The handle is called the thrift, and the blade's called the bill, and it's put into a tapered slot. It allows you to exchange different shaped bills with the same thrift. So this was a later rendition of the mill pig. Now we talked about the description of the layout of the face of the stone being the flat area being lands and the grooves being the furrows. There are a variety of ways of laying this out. This pattern is called a quarter dress, and that comes from the fact that, as you can see from this straight edge, we're going to divide that circle into quarters. And then those quarters are divided once again and a second time. So this is called the quarter dress pattern, and this was the most popular. There's a debate, there's no solution to that debate, but about which pattern worked best. It was an individual preference by the miller. There was no proved analysis that any dress worked better for any different stone or any different grain or produced more or less material. Now this is the tool used to cut these furrows, and it was done one strike at a time. So imagine the labor involved in shaping all of these furrows in a 4-foot stone like this. A millwright or a journeyman would come around and use these picks to do that work. And they say that the old saying, "Show me your metal," came from this particular task. These are tempered steel edges on these picks, and as you hit this stone, little bits of stone and little bits of this metal fly off, and they could embed themselves in your hands and your arms and your cheeks. And so a journeyman would come to the door and say, "Show me your metal," and that was your resume. You'd show him how much of this material you had embedded in your body.